Thanks, everyone. I'm very excited to be here today. Again, of course, for those that saw me during the welcome, hello again. Now, as Mac has mentioned, my main interest, I guess my main interest in tech moving forward has been getting into AI and machine learning. And for those that would have attended our first conference, the very first thing that I wanted to present was how developers could get into AI and machine learning without having a data science background. And so, what we originally looked at the time was using different libraries that exist in order to create AI models or machine learning models and deploy them. But with the theme of low code, no code, I really wanted to see like what's out there for us. That's an even higher level than a machine learning library that would allow someone to get started with AI and machine learning and, really incorporate it into our project. So I'm going to walk you all through most of the process today for looking at image classification and creating a data set and training a data set for image classification and what that looks like with the Google Cloud platform. So that's the main thing that I want to focus on for today. So let me go ahead and get my screen all ready to go for you all, and then we'll get started. So let's see. I guess I can. Ooh, how do I? I'm like the only person that doesn't know how to present slides. Share. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I have this. Let me just make sure I can share for you all. Okay, so if I want to, sorry about that. Alrighty. If someone doesn't mind, I don't know, Mac, if you can confirm, are you all able to see my slides now? Okay, hopefully we're good. All right, so again, hi everyone. My name is Jeseekia. You can find me on social media as Meta Dev Girl. Today, again, the main thing I wanted to focus on is looking at AI and machine learning and how we can include these into our projects. So I'm going to be focusing on the Google AutoML service that is provided by the Google Cloud platform. But this is by no means the only option that we have out there, just something to give you an idea of what to look into and maybe another topic that you can include into your projects in the future. So just a little bit of information as far as, um, if you're not familiar with AI and machine learning and what it really means for us, the main thing that I want people to start thinking about when it comes to AI and machine learning is that, there's no real magic behind AI. Whenever we are actually implementing AI within our projects, all we're really doing is looking for like the most efficient way that we can reveal, patterns within our data. So ultimately, when you think about AI and machine learning, what you're really thinking about is taking one big data set and using that data set to create what we call a model. Okay. So our model is really, something that we can use to make predictions on unseen data. So we take a bunch of data that we're already familiar with. In our case, we're going to look at labeled data, right? So we're going to take a bunch of data that already exists. We're going to apply labels to that data just so that we know that we'll be able to basically train our model and tell our model exactly what labels belong to what pieces of data. And from there, once we have a model that is trained, we can use that model again to just make predictions on data that it's never seen before. And, this is a similar way that humans think. Or that humans learn when we are small children or even now as adults. We might learn how a dog or a cat looks, and maybe for the first time we've only seen one dog, one cat, one squirrel, and we're not really sure exactly the difference between them. But over time we see enough examples of cats and enough examples of dogs to be able to distinguish between them. And if we even take that a little bit further, we might see enough distinctions between cats in particular, to where we could actually specify what type of breed is that cat. So that's the idea that I want to go for today, and just giving you a little bit of an idea how this can potentially work. So, just a little bit of history. AI hasn't been around for a long time. A lot of I want to say a lot of the patterns and um, training styles that we're using today really date back decades. It's just that, in very recent years, we've had a huge amount of computing power, and we've been able to combine that with what we already knew in the field to actually apply, those AI and machine learning concepts to existing projects. So, this is its own discipline, and I think a lot of us developers that are traditionally maybe a web developer, you may be a front end or a back end developer, or even other parts of the technology stack, really just don't have that familiarity with what it means to be in AI. But there's a lot of opportunities for us to kind of expand out and take that logical mindset and apply it to AI and machine learning. So, I think a lot of people have heard the buzzwords of AI and machine learning, just like now we hear a lot about blockchain technology, and just wondering what it is, and if it's something that you should invest your time into. And so for me, I really think about the ideas that, of course, folks are looking for AI and machine learning skill sets. And for me, I always think about like trying to get my feet wet. I think Angie said it earlier about, even when the technology is new, companies are still looking for you to have some type of experience with it. And so, again, 2 years ago, when I was giving a similar talk, I was able to show these are, different machine learning libraries that you can use. And even in that case, it requires you to already have like a developer background and already be, familiar with maybe Python, for example. But now we can think about no code and low code tools as an option as well, as far as being able to get your feet wet and really understand the concepts, even bring it into a project. And then from there, you can really decide, do you want to go further into the code and customize your models? Do you want to get further into the theory and creating your own training process and things of that nature? But, I just feel like this is a great opportunity for folks to start exploring AI and machine learning and bringing it into projects. Maybe even establishing some conceptual topics, some proof, or some, what do I want to say? Uh, Demos or test projects that you can kind of deploy and get out there. Um, Another big thing about AI and machine learning is that, most companies, a lot of companies these days, they have so much data and don't even really know what to do with it. And, that data is valuable in a lot of different ways, because there's things that we can learn from the data. So whether it's within the industry, if you want to think more the corporate, or, bigger companies, startups, things of that nature. You also can think about, your communities, nonprofits, other organizations that have a lot of data sets that you could potentially use. Data that you're probably already tracking and storing, that you could use to learn from. And so I would like to for folks to think about, applying AI and machine learning, not just within, a Google or a Microsoft, but think about how it could help, your local nonprofit, or your local community as well. And of course, I think that it's no secret to anybody here that diversity within the industry is always going to be extremely important in making sure that the products that we do develop, they have a reflection on everyone. And that's even similar to, what Mac was saying about accessibility as well. So, for example, um, if we take a look at some data sets, and we know that folks that are working on the data sets don't necessarily have a diverse background, or if our data sets aren't diverse, that does affect the end product as well. So, I just think that representation is really important and really key, and it's crucial for us to know how the field works, how the industry works, and to have a voice in it as well. So, that's more of my soapbox about AI and machine learning. But with that being said, hopefully you can see that, no matter which way you look at it, we want to see diversity within this realm, and there's a lot of ways that we can be involved in that process. So just to give you like a big overall look at how does this process work? Well, we have pretty much a cycle, and for software developers, we're already familiar with having a cycle through our software. So we know that code doesn't just start and end, right? We typically start with an idea for what we want to do, and then we may come and implement some features, but we always have to iterate and improve on our code. And if you're maintaining a code base for an extended period of time, then you're always going to be either fixing bugs or adding new features or just refining your code overall. So in the AI or machine learning realm, we have a few different phases that we typically go through. And so here it's just like a visual representation of that, right? So the first thing we usually do is we prep our data. Okay. So we have to prepare some type of a data set. And again, for us today, we're going to look at labeled data, but you can also do unlabeled data as well. And that's a different realm, but we want to prepare our data. So preparing our data usually means compiling the data, getting it into some type of consistent formatting. It also means like cleaning up our data as well. So when it comes to cleaning up your data, you want to think about, if I have a table of data, maybe a Google sheet or something like that that contains a lot of different rows of data, I want to make sure all the data in one column is the same type. I want to make sure, I don't have maybe pieces of data or rows of data that has missing columns, especially if those columns are important to the training process. So there's just a lot of care and thought that goes into preparing your data. And I think even there is a lot more emphasis on that aspect of the process than any of the others. You probably think like, okay, once you have a model and you can do predictions, that's the most important part. But to me, preparing the data is definitely the most important part because it's how you get the most accurate results. But going on from preparing the data, we also or we move on to training. So for us, what we're able to do today is take advantage of the Google Cloud platform in order to actually train data for us without too much work on our end and really literally having to write no code at all. But again, you have the training process, and there's a lot of different methods to training. You typically have different training methods depending on what type of data you have and what you're trying to do with it. So it's slightly different training data for image classification, right? Where I want to be able to look at an image and tell you what it is, versus if I was to look at some text and want to do sentiment analysis on text, right? So I want to look at some text and tell you how someone feels or how someone is feeling at the moment. So both of those data sets can be trained, but again, it's just the idea that that training can look different because of the type of data that we're working with, as well as what we're planning to do with that data. So then from there is where we can make our predictions. So once we have trained our model, then we can use our model to make predictions. Okay. So for us today, again, I want to think about the idea of looking at different cat breeds and how can we have a model that would predict what type of cat breed we're looking at. And then from there, once you do have a model, that's not the end of your process at all. You will be going from predicting to optimization. So you may want you may find that your model is not as accurate as you would like, or you might want to get it more accurate so you can optimize your training. And then from there, you can deploy it, right? So once I've tested my model and I know that it's good to go within my smaller environment, now I'm going to deploy it out to the real world within my application or whatever the case may be, and then see from there how that process goes. Does it work very well? Do I find that there was maybe gaps that I skipped within the process? Maybe I need more data. But again, after your deployment, that's where you can really learn how your model would best work. And you could go back and refine your model as well. So you can go back to your data and maybe add additional data, clean it up more, or anything that you feel like will help you come up with a more accurate representation of your model. So that's more of a high level of, you know, some of the concepts that you can think about when it comes to AI and machine learning. And um, I want us to get started by, let's see, I'm going to be showing you all the Google Cloud platform. And forgive me because I have one window today. So I will be bringing up Google Cloud. Now, we're looking at the AutoML today. I do have some instructions within the GitHub repo that will allow us to, let me see, I'll refresh this. I do have some instructions here that will allow you to kind of follow through the process that I'm going through. But in the meantime, what I also want to let you all know is that I would update this to add some extra links to resources and things of that nature. So, with that being said, again, we are looking at AutoML, which is a part of the Google Cloud platform. That's the main thing that we're going to be getting started with today. And the primary focus that we have is going to be the Vision API using, I'm sorry, the auto machine learning vision section of the platform. So my example today, I want to take a look at uh, some different cat breeds, and I'm going to go through a little bit of the process just to show you kind of like from start to almost finish how you can do this, because for image classification, I'm going to need quite a few images. Now, technically, I think that for the AutoML vision, it will say that you need at least 10 images. But really, for us, I'm going to pick 3 different cat breeds, and I want to have at least 100 images for those different breeds. So, I'm going to start out by just scraping the web for some images, and hopefully you'll find this portion helpful as well, because I think one of the biggest struggles that you can have, or one of the biggest barriers that you can have when you first get started with AI and machine learning, is you need data sets. Okay, so for me today, I'm going to create a data set, and let's see, I will be using Google image search, and I have a extension called image cap, and that's going to allow me to easily download those images. So I'm going to search for let's see, I really want to go straight to Google. Google, and I have a few, so I'm going to start with the 3 breeds I'm going to do are the American short hair. I just picked cats that I personally like to see. So I picked the American short hair, the Siamese, um, American short hair, Siamese, and the third one's going to be the Scottish fold cat. So these are the 3 breeds I'm looking at. Of course, I can add more breeds, but this is mostly just for for demonstration purposes, I'm going to start here. So again, for me, I'm going to be compiling a data set. So I need at least 100 images from each of these categories, or I can call them classes. Each classification, I want to have at least 100 different images. And so I have this one Google Chrome extension. It's called ImageCap, and I'm going to use that to pretty much scrape images from the Google search page. So I'm here, and I think this is the first load is not going to give me enough images. So I'm just going to scroll to the bottom like once, twice. And I'm just going to do this. Maybe I'll do a third time because there's a lot of images in here I'm probably going to pull out. So I'm just getting a little bit of lazy loading in so I'll have more images on my page. And I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this. Again, ImageCap, it has the option for digging. It's basically like a web scraper for that page. So when I click on ImageCap from my American Shorthair search, I have basically all of the images that were present on that page at the time. So this is a good data set for me to start with. And again, this is maybe not everyone's process, like for going through and cleaning up the data or sourcing data, but this is still going to be data preparation. So there's only a few options that we have in here. The main things that we're going to be doing when we look at this is I'm going to select everything that is on the page, and then I'm going to weed out some of the images that I definitely don't want, and I'll save those. So for the most part, I'm going to keep everything, but I'm going to take out like images that I feel like would be a little bit messy for my data set. Like if it has a lot of text in it, or if it has multiple cats or any, like basically anything other than a cat inside of it, I'm probably going to just remove those. Like this is a book cover. So that's just my personal choice. I feel like it's most straightforward if I make sure that my images just have one cat in them and that they're the right breed. So I'll just go through here and kind of clean up some of these. And again, anything I deselect is not going to be a part of our data set at all. So like there's some graphic images and things of that nature. So yeah, I'm just going to try to go through this quickly because I know it takes a little bit of time to get all of our data uploaded. Let's see. So I'll keep going. I can barely see that cat. That looks like a Bengal. That's not a Mary. I already took that one out. Okay. So yeah, like this is a vector drawing. I'm going to take that out for sure. Let's see. So there's quite a lot to go through here. I'll probably, if we need to, I won't show all of the data sets because I do already have a data set training right now. So if time permits, then we'll just get all of the data right now. Otherwise, I do have some data that we can use. So again, this is my first round of cleaning up this data. Get rid. And I would put the link to this Chrome extension within the repo as well. It's called ImageCap. So it's a really nice, convenient extension to use, especially for this purpose. Let's see. Is that a drawing? I can't tell if that's a real cat or not. Let's see. That's a lot in here. Okay. I'm just using my best judgment. Like it's just an eye. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm just using my best judgment on, what kind of pictures do I think would be useful. So I can even think about it from the example of pretty sure that's not a short hair. That looks like a Scottish fold actually. Um, but I'm just using my best judgment. So I can think about it from the perspective of, if I was trying to teach a kid, like a small kid, about specific cat breeds, this eye obviously is not going to be as useful as some of the other photos that are here. So when you are cleaning and preparing data, there is an element of, especially within certain industries, I'll say, there is an element of domain expertise that you can bring to your projects and to your field as well. So a lot of times when you are cleaning data and preparing data, the more you know about the data set, the better you can be at preparing it, right? So if I didn't know the difference between American short hair versus, another type of cat, then I might have a really messy data set at the end because basically I would be having, bad data within this group. So let's see, get rid of that Google logo. I'm getting rid of anything that has multiple cats in it just for simplicity. Book covers, things with a lot of text. Get rid of that one's fine. Let's see. And I got a lot of images, so I just want to do at least a rough scrub because it takes a little bit to download these, and the more I have to import, the longer that process is going to take. I can't tell if that's a real cat or a stuffed animal, but so we got drawings in here. Okay. So that's probably fine. Just do a rough look. That's a drawing. I think that's a stuffed animal or a statue. Okay, so that seems decent. So now the way that this tool works in particular is I can come in and I can create a new site folder and save. So I'm gonna type this one as American short hair cat. I do already technically have something called American short hair, so it's gonna it would complain a little bit for me. So let's see. I'm gonna delete this other folder just so I won't have any confusion. So many things, so many things. Okay, so I'm calling this American short hair. And the way that this Chrome extension is going to work is going to give me a folder with this name here, and I want this name to basically match the label for the images because that's going to help out once I put it into the AutoML platform. So again, I'm choosing to name my folder the same name that I want to use for labeling all of this data. So all of this data will be labeled as American short hair cat. So I'm just going to go ahead and say yes, and plenty and plenty of downloads will go here. So let's see, I'm about 30 minutes in. I'll go ahead and grab some other data just so you all can see that process again. So that was my American short hair. Now if I go over to my Siamese, again, I'm here. Now I know that this first set of results is not going to give me enough images. So I'm just going to scroll down once just to reload and get some additional data. And then I'm going to scroll one more time just so I'll have enough that I can get about at least 100 images off of here. So let's see. I'm going to go hit the image cap, dig images. The square is our select all. So I'm selecting everything, and then I'll go through and clean up anything I don't want for the Siamese. So anything that has like multiple cats, if it has text, if it's like a meme or something like that, I'm pretty much getting rid of it. If it's a drawing, this one has like another a person in it, so I'm just going to skip that. And if I do happen to see like an image that doesn't seem right, I'm going to get rid of that too, because that does not look like a Siamese. That's a good group. Here we go. Get rid of this one. So again, as I was mentioning before, when it comes to preparing your data, I highly recommend, if you already have a specific expertise, so say for example, like you're within the automotive field or something like that, you can bring that domain knowledge into some AI and machine learning projects because, again, the more that you know about the data, the more that you can actually really format your existing data and you know exactly what it should be, the better off you're going to be with your models in the end. So for those that have like particular specialties, it's really nice. You'll have a really nice time being able to come in and do some like quality projects. Let's see, so this page is almost good. I think that's a stuffed animal. That almost, yeah, I guess that one is. Okay. Is this a drawing? No, I don't think so. All right. So hopefully like this image, I'm not gonna leave that in, of course. All right, so I'm almost done with this crop of images, and I'm going to show you how the format looks in Finder. Since I have downloaded 2 different data sets, I'll show you how we need to update that folder for importing to Google Cloud Platform. I'm not convinced that should be here either. So like I'm no cat expert, but I'm just using my best judgment. Okay, we'll get rid of that. I had to remove a lot of images from this set, so hopefully I should still get to 100. So I'll do a quick pass through. It's not my last chance to look at the data, but again, it's much nicer if I don't import images that I'm not going to use. That's probably okay. All right, so you do have to be careful with this image cap because if you just hit save, it's going to go to the folder that you had previously. So I want this to go to a new folder. So I'm going to create a new site folder and save. So before I had American short hair cat, this time I'm going to have Siamese cat. I'll go ahead and hit yes. Okay, and let's see. I did have some instructions open. Yep. So again, the first section is our creating a data set. So you would be able to create your data set however you would like. We're doing image classification, so I just need a lot of images in this case. From there, we're going over to the Google Cloud platform, and we're going to bring in our data set to the dashboard. So I'll show you how you can actually bring your data in. Let's see. I'm going to go to Finder, Downloads, and the app that I'm using is known as, or I think the producers is called Jeseekia. So Jeseekia actually gives us one big folder that they create, and then within there, those are those what did they call them? They called them site folders. So within Jeseekia, I have a American Shorthair cat folder and I have a Siamese cat folder. Now, they are divided into these dated folders, which you don't really need the dated folders. You need your images to be directly inside of the labeled folders. So, for me, it's pretty simple. I'm just going to make sure I'm just going to go and move all these images up one level. So move those up a level. Make that a little bit longer. Okay. So I'm here. So the American Shorthair cat, I moved everything out of this dated folder, so I can just delete that. And then for the Siamese cat, same thing. I'm going to take all those images, come down here, and move those out of the dated folder and directly into their parent folder. And just delete that. So I have two sets of data right now, and I want to rename the original folder. I want to call it like cat breed data. So I renamed the Jeseekia folder to cat breed data. So now coming over to the Google Cloud platform, let's see. I just want to start out here so I can show you all. You can come in to the platform under the navigation menu. I think I have it pinned, but I'll show you that as you scroll through, you may have to go to more products, but you'll keep scrolling until at this point, what you're looking for is the artificial intelligence section. So I'm looking for vision under here. Now, again, this may not show initially when you first look at the menu. Just keep scrolling, and if they give you an option, select like show more or more products, and you'll finally be able to see artificial intelligence after a while. So I'm clicking on vision. So you can see there was a lot of other options that you had under the artificial intelligence. So I encourage you all to just take a look and see what else is out there. They have like natural language processing. I think the Vertex API or the Vertex AI is like a catch-all for a lot of the different services that they have. But today we're looking at the AutoML vision. So I'm going to hit AutoML vision, get started. And let me see, because I have some notifications. I have some data training right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do enable AutoML API. So what'll happen is after I do have the model fully trained, there'll be an API that I have access to. So I'll hit get started. Now I already have a data set in here. we will take a look at this data set because it does take a little bit of time for us um, to train the data. So this data set probably won't finish, the one that I'm doing right now, but that's okay. I want you all to just see the entire process. So I'm creating a new data set. Um, I'm gonna just leave it as this title for now. And we're choosing single label classification. So again, under those instructions, you will see that you go to the artificial intelligence section. Under vision, we are doing AutoML vision and we're doing image classification. Under our data sets, we want a single label classification. Let's see. So I'm doing single label and create a data set. So you can upload your files directly here. Notice that it does finally let you know at this point, each label should have at least 100 images. That's for the best results. I think the bare minimum is 10 images in total, but you don't want to have 10 images. Oh, pardon me. So I'm going to do one final step, which is go back to Finder, and in my downloads where my cat breeds data is, I'm going to compress just so I'll have a zip for that data. So I'm going to keep with the upload images option. I'm going to select files and I'm going to select my cat breed data.zip. And then I do have to choose some destination in the cloud storage. So I'm going to, I have a bucket already. This is my other data set right here. So I'm not going to mix it with that data. I'm going to just create a different bucket. And this would be like a hacking with the homies, cat breed data or something like that. Um, and then I'm just going to create. I'm not going to do anything else because the labels are already going to be created from my folder structure. So I'm going to use this folder and hit select. So now that I have chosen my data source and my destination, I can hit continue. And it does take a little bit of time to possibly finish your imports. So it just depends on how much data you're bringing in. The maximum that you can bring in on an import at this point is 500 files. So if I go over to images now, it's going to stay at this status, this running or importing images status for quite some time. So I'm going to let that go because it's going to take a little bit of time to let that finish. And so what I'm going to do is I'll leave that one there and I'm going to hop over to my other data set just so I can continue on with the demo. So once you brought all of your data in, notice here I have 3 different categories of images. So I have all images where you can see the entire data set. This is another data set that I uploaded previously, but it's pretty much all the same images. I use a similar process. I just have the Scottish fold. I have the Scottish fold label in here as well. So again, now we have all of our images uploaded and I can see that I have at least 100 images per label. And like I mentioned before, when we were scraping our images from the web, that wasn't the last time that we have an option to actually clean up our data. While we are inside of the Google Cloud Platform dashboard, here under the images, we could actually go in here. We could delete some of these or we could reassign the labels if we just, maybe I found that, one of my data sets has like the wrong cat in it. I could go in, relabel that data, or I could just delete something if I find something that shouldn't be here. So these folders here are based off of how my data set looks in or how it was uploaded. So I have another data set here. It's called cat breeds. Yep, I have the cat breeds data set. Inside of there, it's slightly different than how I named it just now. So just to make sure you can see um, the connections. So my cat breeds data that I use for this data set, we have American short hair, we have Scottish fold, and then we have Siamese. So however you label those folders inside of the folder that you upload, that's gonna determine your labels um, in the platform. So now from here, I have the option to do training. Now I've already trained this data. It took about it took probably Um about 45 minutes maybe for that to an hour for that data to train. But whenever you do want to train data, let's see, you're going to have the option to come in here, click train. And again, I have some instructions here just because this data kind of already started training, but you're going to have the option to click train. You can keep it at cloud hosted, hit continue. And I found that um in this case for my training, I have to use at least 8 node hours. That's just how Google has specified for me to train this data set. I can use 16, but 8 is like the minimum. So I can choose 8. And then from there, I can hit start training. So I'm not going to do that because this data is already trained. I am going to check and see. I doubt the other data is going to finish before we do. So, um, but I'll just show you now. After this data has finished training, I have a couple of things I can do. So I can evaluate. And evaluate, it just gives you more information about how the training went. But what we care about the most is test and use. So again, I went through the process of importing this data. I went through my images. I made sure I had at least 100 for each category. From there, I went to train and was able to train a new model that is cloud hosted. And your specifications might slightly change depending on your data, but you would get an error if you don't put enough hours in here. So I can show you, like, if I put 1 node hour and I hit start training, I'm actually going to get an error. And it says, the training budget is 1,000 milli-node hours. The maximum is 800,000 milli-node hours, but the minimum is 8,000 milli-node hours. So I chose 1,000 milli-node hours, but the minimum I need is 8,000. So that is the issue with my training, right? So that's okay. All I have to do is make sure I come back here and update your budget so that you have at least the required number of node hours. So even though it said 8 node hours, it took my training like 45 minutes on this data set. So now what we can do is test our model out on an image that we haven't used before. So I know, like, let's see, we could go with the Scottish fold. That's 1, 2. The first 3 sets of data that loaded into here, I probably already have most of these images. So I'm just going to try to find the image that I haven't used yet and see about the classification. So let's come here and I'm going to download this image. Say test Scottish fold, downloads. I want to try to get, just a quick sample so I can actually see how accurate my results are. So here's one that I probably haven't used yet. This is American Shorthair. So I'm going to download this. Test American Shorthair. And then I'm going to just grab a Siamese, might as well, since we're towards the end of this process anyway. Alrighty. So let's look at this Siamese cat here. Save as test Siamese. I think I got one of each. So coming back to test and use, I want to test my model. So let me upload some images. It lets me upload 10. I'm uploading my images, and then you can see my predictions are pretty much instant on here. So this comes out as Siamese, this comes out as American Shorthair, and this comes out as a Scottish fold. Right? So it took like less than an hour to train this data set in particular. I just have like a little bit over 300 images, and from there I already have a model that's pretty accurate in being able to determine some of these images. So just in the first go, I see that those images are good to go, but I could continue to test this more and more just to see what other results, if there's anything weird about my model. And then once you have tested, from here is where you can actually use your model. So you can use Python, and they have a script available to use it. They have a script available to actually test your custom model, but you can also use the REST API. So if you are interested in kind of once taking that a step further and bringing this into your applications, now you have a REST API or a Python client that you can use to get those predictions for this particular model. And everything else pretty much is handled for you by the Google Cloud platform. So one last thing before I go ahead and see if you all have any final questions is I'll go back to my data set that I uploaded earlier, just so you can see. Here's the data that came in. I have 273 American Shorthair images, 161 Siamese cat images, and again, that's the data set that we looked at together. If I want to come in here and remove anything, I can, like Siamese cat. If I saw anything that was weird, I could just delete it from the data set. Like this, is that a real cat? I think that's a painting. Yeah, this one's a painting. So let me see. I'm gonna delete that painting. So that was a Siamese. I'm gonna just click the bubble and I'm gonna delete that one. Confirm. So you can do a lot more of your cleaning of your images in here. The only reason that I say that you want to be careful of what you import is because it takes quite some time for those imports to go. And so you can see when you have a fresh set of data and you haven't done any training before, then you have this option to hit start. This will be your model name, cloud hosted, continue. As I mentioned earlier, I know I need at least 8 hours, so that's what I'm choosing. and then I hit start training. And while your model is training, you'll just kind of see this status right here. So even if I go to images and I come back to the train section, I'll keep seeing this until my image is until my model is fully trained. And you can actually you'll get an email whenever the training completes, or if you're already within the platform, then you'll be able to see uh, when your model is ready to go. So you'll know this model is ready to go once you have the option to evaluate and then test and use. You don't have those options just yet. So I know I swapped back and forth between a couple, but hopefully this is helpful in showing you all how you can maybe, get started and experiment with some AI and machine learning. I think that it's really awesome to have the opportunity to, incorporate these into our projects. And I just want you all to consider AI and machine learning and just know that there's a lot of opportunities out there, regardless of whether you want to get into it from a coding perspective or not. And with that being said, I really appreciate you all for taking the time out to hear my talk. And you can find me on social media at MetaDevGirl. And as I mentioned before, I'll add some more notes to the GitHub repo. I'll add some more links and resources just so that you all can follow some of the same processes that I did.
Cool. Thank you, Jeseekia. So a couple quick questions. We have a couple of minutes to spare. Well, first of all, let's see if anybody has any questions here while we talk it up. So, so when we talk about I didn't even think about it because when you said hey Mac, I want to do Google ML.
Sorry, y'all. I'm gonna get this off. Stop. There we go.
Oh,
go
okay,
for it.
No problem. Yeah, I was when you first said, hey Mac, I want to do Google Cloud AutoML, and I was like, how does that fit in the low code, no code? And but obviously we work together all the time, so I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. That I trust her; she knows what she's doing. And I see it now because if and me and you have started a company before called Train X AI, and we did training for people, trying to explain to people that it was really tough, right? To get people who don't necessarily do this every day to kind of understand how to go through all the steps you just mentioned, from cleansing the data to training the data and then going through that process again. So this seems like it takes a lot of the heavy lifting off of someone knowing all those. I mean, they still need to understand the steps, but they're not writing algorithms. They're not having to figure out what's the best. I don't know. Maybe you showed that and maybe I missed it. Can they pick the actual algorithm that they use for actually doing the actual training for this, or does Google ML do everything for you basically and behind the scenes?
It's doing everything for you pretty much. And it's more so you're trying to decide what are the topics that I want to cover, so or the specific application. So image classification is its own service, and image classification is kind of if you had to do this with TensorFlow or something like that, or just using Python, like a Python library, you would have to know, oh, for image classification, I need this algorithm, or I need to use this particular tool set within the library, versus with Google Cloud Platform. When you use those tools, it's just, do you want to do image classification? Do you want to do natural language processing? They have some basically some different use cases that you can work with, but they do let you customize. They do have some more customization features, so you can get deeper into it if you would like to. I think under the Vertex AI section, you will see more options to do a little bit more code, low code. But I just thought that this would be a great example, having that no code. And first, I just kind of get to see how the whole process goes. And then again, like I said, that's when you can go deeper and say, okay, well, my image classification works and I like that, but now I want to know more about image classification. How could I do this with TensorFlow library and become more of an AI developer? But if you just want to get it started in your project, or you don't have the technical background, or you really just don't have the time, because honestly, I think it's just nice because I really trained the model in like less than an hour, and that would have taken a little bit more work with any of the other tools that we've used before.
Yeah, so that I mean, it was amazing, right? Because the thing is that most of the tools that we're running, we're like, okay, we need to go get compute power. We got to make sure we have the right resources to train this model. Whereas it became basically, I click a button and then Google goes off and I'm assuming has already has a set of servers provisioned to actually do the processing here. So it I just remember when we did this. This was a lot of work because you get to a point if your your machine runs out of memory, you got to actually retrain your model, right? Because it'll stop running. So this
Yeah.
is a pretty amazing deal. Any other questions for Jeseekia while she's up here?
Yeah, thanks for everyone. I do have a Twitch channel which I'll be going back live probably next month, but I do like to do live coding. I'm an instructor right now, so I teach, coding boot camps and programs that help folks get into technology. But I also really love just being able to show the back end of how coding goes. So, most people we see those tutorials and people think that's how it is, and it's like no. So, if you ever find me on Twitch, I'm typically just working on projects and just showing my process.